This video talks about how to draw a portrait using charcoal, in particular vine or willow charcoal. What you're seeing here is the beginning of the drawing, which is done by gesturing. And the key to gesturing is to think about it as if the most important thing is the big picture. What you want to do is avoid outlining, avoid starting from the left to the right or from the top to the bottom, and avoid drawing in a linear way, both conceptually and physically. What you want to do is jump around. Like I'm doing here on the paper. I noted a little bit about the eyes, and now I'm just kind of estimating where major shapes and inner shapes are. I do have a couple outside lines, but I'm jumping in and outside of the figure. I'm not concentrating on contours. I'm not concentrating on outlining anything. So what you want to do is stand back. Keep at an arm's distance away. Don't get too close. Don't draw with your wrists so much. What you want to do is use more of your arm to guide your charcoal strokes. Think about value as well. Think about the dark areas of the image. Work quickly. Jump from top to bottom. Look and squint your eyes. What that does is help to simplify the dark values and eliminate some of the details that might distract you. When you are working in the hair, don't fill in just a general pattern. Actually look at the hair, look at the waves, look at the changes in direction, look at the light areas and the dark areas. Jump around to the shadows. Note the most important and darkest shadows first, and then go back little by little, work with the middle tones and the highlights, which you'll see later on in the video. So what I'm doing here is I keep looking back more at the image than what I'm drawing, than the actual paper that I'm drawing on. I keep looking back at the image because you will forget and you will start making up how you think it should look, how you think a person will look. It goes back to symbolizing a generic person. So trust your eyes, draw what you see, don't draw what you think it should look like. Here I'm showing you how to use your fingers and to blend, soften edges. We all know that a soft edge will look rounder. A sharp edge defines a geometric shape or a very sharp line or a transition in a square or a cube. So by keeping it nice and soft around the edges, you help create that illusion of a three-dimensional form, of a round form. Don't forget the background. The background is very important and should be treated as important as the figure. So jump around with the background, and what that also does is help create a little bit of atmosphere as well. Once you do get most of the general shapes in, you can go back and start kind of redefining and making corrections and adjustments. You can go back and then look at the mouth, look at the nose, start making comparisons. What I just did there was take a look at the eye and then compare it to the mouth and to see where the eye lines up with the corner of the mouth. A lot of times you will get the corner of the mouth too far in or too far out. So if you use an imaginary vertical line, you can just draw in your mind a line up from the side of the mouth and see where it falls on the eyes, for example. It's about making comparisons. It's about looking at common angles and shapes. You might have a base unit that you use, for example, from the bottom of the nose to the top of the nose or between the eyes, and then compare that to something else. For example, the mouth to the chin might be about the same as from the nose to the eyebrow. What you saw in the beginning was making comparisons with the red lines. So for example, the bottom of the chin to the bottom of your paper was the same length as the bottom of your nose to the top of your eyebrow. The top of your hair to the eyebrow was represented with a blue line, and that's the same distance from the mouth to the bottom of the paper. So what you want to do is make comparisons, both in size and then also look at locations. What you see that I'm doing here is I'm kind of going back in and reinforcing some of the darks. I'm looking at creating the middle tones. One of the most common mistakes from a beginner is that you have too much white of the paper. Look at someone's skin. Whether the person is light or dark skin, they will still have middle tones. It doesn't matter. You want to create those middle tones by using your finger or thumb, by hatching, by creating some round marks, by scumming up the paper a little bit, and then you reinforce that going back in with your charcoal and making the darker areas dark, and then use your eraser and make the lighter areas light. So it's just a process of going back and forth, correcting, reestablishing dark areas, adjusting sizes and locations. Here you see I'm going back in and I'm slowing down. I started out very quickly, and then towards the end, when you're almost finished or getting close to being finished, you can slow down. What you want to do is go quickly in the beginning, gesture, don't think a lot about it, but then towards the end, it's more of a detailed process. You use your eraser more, you take your time, you spend more time stepping back, you flip the work upside down and look at it from far away. It's a little bit more of a wait and look process towards the end than the action and then actually doing it. Yeah, I mean, you can still work quickly when it comes to creating your middle tones and blending your edges, but overall you start out quickly and then you end with a little bit more patience. Here you see I'm just kind of going in, redefining a couple of the darkest darks, just by creating more value contrast with the dark darks and the lights. It creates that illusion of a three-dimensional shape or a person in this case, and it brings a little bit more interest. Whenever you have contrast, it brings more interest to your work. So in general, just remember those tips. Stand back, work quickly in the beginning, gesture in the beginning. Later you can take your time, make changes, create those middle tones. Use your eraser to help you draw, to help take out areas that might have gotten too dark, to create texture. Here you can see that I'm actually using the kneaded eraser to help me blend, almost as if it was a blending stump, or here in this case I'm using my finger as well. So keep those edges nice and soft. Remember your middle tones, go back and forth, taking out highlights, adding darker areas, and just remember to keep working from the general to the more specific. Don't focus too much on details. Keep making comparisons, compare proportions, look at location, and go back and forth making corrections as you go.